What distinguishes the commentaries on this Chinese work from almost all other works of Chinese mathematical history is that the authors of the former did what? So going to the paragraph, we find that in the first part here is talking about how modern Western people would handle these things, and then the difference, the traditional Chinese works would show results without showing proofs. And so they would show that something was true without showing why it was true. And then we get to a major exception. So this major exception, the 9 chapters on the mathematical arts and the commentaries on that, this is an exception because unlike all the other works of Chinese mathematics, this is showing the proofs. It's showing both the results and the proofs, both what is true and why is true. So now let's find an answer that reflects this. So answer true saying made clear exactly what theorems are true. Well, all the works were making clear what was true. The question is, were they explaining why it was true? And so that's not correct. B, spend time justifying the qualifications as authorities. No, it was not about how qualified the authorities are. C, did not fully disclose all the results in the field discussed. That doesn't really make sense. What distinguishes these commentaries is that they provide more information, not less. D, provided explicit proofs of the mathematical results presented. Bingo, that's exactly what we're looking for. E, had an influence over a large portion of Chinese history. Well, we know that these commentaries had that influence, but maybe other works had an influence also. We're not actually sure. We're not clear. It doesn't talk about the influence of other works, so we can draw no conclusions on that. But D is exactly what we're looking for, and it is consistent with the main point of the passage. The author implies all of the following except. So here, 4 of the answer choices are going to be supported and 1 isn't. So first of all, let's look at A. Ancient mathematical texts of Mesopotamia do not provide explicit proofs for all their results. Well, what do we know here? We know that unlike all the other Chinese works, that the one we're talking about here, the 9 chapters on the mathematical art, this one does provide proofs. And because of this, we are in a position to know a lot more about the logical construction of mathematics in China, because we have these proofs, than in Mesopotamia. And so it implies that in Mesopotamia, we don't have the same series of proofs for mathematical arguments that we have in this individual Chinese work. And so this does look like it's supported by the passage, so this would not be an answer. B. The first Western scholars studying the histories of Chinese mathematics were unaware of the proofs available in the commentaries and sub-commentaries on this Chinese work. Well, let's see. We were referring to, so this fact, which was long unrecognized. So long unrecognized means that the first people studying it did not realize that this book, the commentaries and the sub-commentaries, were full of proofs. So that was long unrecognized, so this is perfectly correct. The first Western scholars were unaware of the proofs. So this is implied, and so this can't be an answer. C. Proofs are a method of demonstrating the logical arguments underlying a mathematical result. That sounds pretty reasonable. Is it supported in the passage? Well, what we're told is that a proof justifies each and every mathematical result, and if we don't have it, then we don't have the logical underpinnings. So proof provides the logical underpinnings of a result. And what do we have here? Proofs are demonstrating the logical arguments underlying a result. That sounds very much like what the text says, so that's not a possible answer here. D. The majority of important Chinese mathematicians between the year 1000 and 1500 would have known of this mathematical work. Well, what do we know? It served as a reference for Chinese math over a long period of its history. Well, if it's over a long period of its history, then during this chunk of time, it's reasonable to assume that most of these important Chinese mathematicians would have known about it. So we'll eliminate that also. So we eliminated 4 answers. We hope E is the right answer. The authors of this work do not make any claim justifying their own authority. Well, this is not really something discussed in the passage. We're talking about justifying mathematical results, but we're not talking about justifying personal authority. And so we have no idea. The passage doesn't treat this at all, whether or not these particular authors justify their own authority. We simply don't know. So because we don't know about this, it's not a clear implication, and therefore this is not implied by the passage. And so E is the best answer here.